really need to hear back on very quickly, and you say that in your pitch, you know, sort of understanding that they're dealing with illusion on their side, and that there's, you know, that it's a complicated on the other side of the table. Just being someone who they can imagine having as a colleague is very helpful thing as well.
Yeah, they want pleasant people.
They want somebody you can go out and like have a drink with.
Yeah. No, I mean, ditto to all this, especially, you know, don't make the mistake of pitching a topic, give a story arc, and whatever the best thing you can give them in the first sentence is to make them pay attention, to read the rest, give it to them. And if you don't have any clips, then, you know, the story is what's in there. And if you published already in some place that will get their attention, make sure they hit that really soon so that they'll read the rest of the pitch. And I like to pitch 3 ideas in each pitch, 1 paragraph each. The editor opens, they know, okay, I'm gonna get 3 ideas for just 3 minutes here. I'm gonna look at them and I might like one of them, but the editor already knows 2 things. I have a lot of ideas, and that's the currency they really want. That's what they want. And the proof you can write is in the concision of those paragraphs, that you delivered the whole story concept there. And
plus, I can say no twice and still make us both happy.
You can make that. And when I started doing this a few years ago, I discovered that my sense of what Ivan wanted the most, I've never written for Ivan, but what Ivan wanted the most was completely off, because more often than not, it would be, you know, I was at chance. I would send him 3 ideas, and I would have thought, if I did it previously, I would just send him the first one. I'd send him a page-and-a-half on it, and exhausted them. They didn't want the idea. But I sent him 3, and the one that they took was not the one I thought that was the best idea. So my own story sense was not, you know, exactly.
I have one other technical thing, which I think sort of gets back to technical, I don't know, but, and you may have covered this, but I discourage my students, mostly because of experience, partly because it's what I would want. I discourage my students from sending entire pieces. Others, you may have worked on something.
Oh God, yeah.
You may have finished it. But you know how
Sorry,
many I get, though?
Say that out loud. Yeah, no, I know.
You may have finished it. Like, you may have done all the reporting you think is necessary. You may have, like, written the most gorgeous thing that I'll actually want. But because I'm, not only am I the guy who likes to say no and busy and all that, I'm an egomaniac, like most editors. And so I like to think that I had something to do with your crafting of this story. And if you send me the whole, no, I'm being, look, again, it's unfortunately videotaped, but I'm, you know, yeah. These things have what in them again? No, partly because of that, and partly because it's much easier to sort of craft it into something that fits for my ridiculous idiosyncratic needs than it is if you just sort of went out and wrote it.
Right. And the same is true for books too. I mean, this is something that, you know, I mean, fiction is sort of a whole other world, but you know, you don't, like, book editors don't want to have an entire manuscript plopped on their desk. You know, they can tell from reading a proposal if they want to do the book, and chances are they're going to have suggestions for ways, you know, that you should or should do the book or whatever. But generally, even just as a basic function of time, you know, you don't plop, you know, 150 pages on someone's desk or, you know, 5,000 words in their inbox. They're not going to probably even it's just going to be overwhelming. This person obviously doesn't know how the business works. So yeah, you turn anything you've already written, you turn it into a pitch before you send it.
Yeah, another thing I would add, partly because this I was bad at early on, which is why early on lasted so long. Which is, forgive me, Ivan, but be persistent. You know, send the email.
Yeah.
I used to wait. I don't even want to get into it, but you know, now I'll wait, depending on the cycle of the place and the you know, quickness of the story, the time sensitivity, 3 weeks tops. And then I send another email, and then I wait a week, and then I call. And you know, on the call, I'm prepared to be extremely brief. I'll send you a picture of blah, blah, I wonder if you have time to look at it. That's all you need. And usually you get them on the phone.
Yeah.
Sometimes you won't get them, but you'll leave a message, and it gets a response, and now they'll look at it.
Yeah,
you don't want to be
because
bitchy.
if you don't want to be bitchy, but it's like, I mean, I know that, like, okay, I've got 20 ideas here that I'm dealing with, and this person sent me this one proposal, and it may be good, but it's like, I know it's not going to be something that's going to be done soon, and it's cool, but I may forget about it. But like, I mean, it's not because it's not a great idea. It's just that it's not going to fit in tomorrow or next week. And and I really want them to call me or email me like in 2 weeks to tell me, oh yeah, what about that?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they're busy as hell.
Yeah.
And if you're not persistent, they're going to forget you. It's just the way it is. And if you believe
don't take it personally if they haven't emailed you.
No, exactly. If you believe in your work, keep pushing the work.
What would I want in a reporter other than polite persistence?
Right, polite persistence.
And so you do that. And also, I mean, I always respond to people, even if it's saying, I can't do this right now, but
Yeah.
Even like, I'm gonna leave it to you to ding me in 2 weeks
Right.
because I literally am just too overwhelmed.
Right.
And people respond to that.
Right.
I think if you're not hearing anything within 3 or 4 weeks, like, again, I hate to sort of malign any colleagues who don't respond at all, but like, I don't know, it just doesn't take that long to say, I can't deal with this right now, but I'd love to
Yeah.
talk to you in 2 weeks. And if that means you have to take it somewhere else, I got it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and just basic, this sort of goes back to this whole show of people that you're a professional and get what they're dealing with. When you do send that follow-up, say, you know, hey, just checking on this pitch I sent 2 weeks ago, pasted it below. And so you don't have, the number, when I was at Popular Science, I would get hundreds of pitches and they're gone. I mean, a lot of the email systems at magazines actually delete things that are in your inbox for more than 2 weeks. So it's possible it doesn't exist anymore. And just the basic function of I'm too busy to look through thousands of emails and find your pitch. So if you didn't paste it in your follow-up, I'm like, chances are as an editor, you're not going to go look for it. So little tiny things like that. And in terms of, you asked about the cold pitching and sort of how do you find people. I mean, you know, the online and the conferences is definitely the way to go. But if you are sort of, you're at a point where you don't know anyone in a magazine and you have to cold pitch, you know, you can go to the masthead and look. And I think one of the mistakes that people often make is they pitch the editor-in-chief, the senior editors. The people up there do not want, they don't have time for pitches. The
They have
people,
them 3 martini lunches like every
That's
day.
true.
yeah, yeah, right. And they have their
Starting
stable
to-
of writers. I mean, this is part of the writing business. They have editors have what they call stables, and part of your marketability as an editor is who are you going to bring in your stable of writers to your various magazines. So they're sort of set in a way. But younger editors, the ones who are sort of assistant and associate editors, are trying to build their stable. So they're looking for good writers, and big kudos for them if they can find a good story and bring it to their editor-in-chief. So usually those are the folks who are more willing to sort of work with you on a pitch and to sort of, sometimes spend a little more time. And so cold pitching those guys is better than higher up, but
Yeah,
even
you
those
wanna
guys.
go. I mean, it
Yeah.
makes sense there as well as looking for book agents or book editors. Well,
Right,
book
the
agents, 'cause
younger-
you can't talk. But match your arc to theirs. Where are you
Right.
in the arc of your career? Find that person who's
Right.
close there and match that up.
Absolutely. And the other thing is writers. I mean, I think this is something that I talk about often. I feel like there's this writer karma, which I dare to say the K word at a science conference, but it's there's every writer has had to break in. We all had somebody help everybody. Anybody who is at any position of power, either as a freelancer or in a magazine, somebody helped us get there. It's a very, unfortunately, that kind of a business where who you know can make absolutely all the difference in the world. And if you're, volunteering at a conference and you're the person who goes and picks the keynote speaker up at the airport, that can be your ticket to later getting a job at the New Yorker. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. In part because writers get this. We all know that, somebody helped me, and I've helped now lots of people who come to me and say, hey, I'm trying to do this thing, I'm trying to break into this magazine or whatever, can you give 5 minutes, or I can ask you some questions, or, and a lot of times it's, can you give me the email address of your editor at the New York Times Magazine or whatever, which, it's fine, I don't do that, in part because my editors would kill me if I did that to everybody who asked. But, I will often, if there's a link to a blog in there, I'll click and I'll look at that person's site, and if I feel like that person actually is someone who could actually stand a chance and, is a good writer and kind of needs that boost, I'll take a second and I'll look at their pitch. And there've been a lot of writers that I've done that for, and I know we've all done that. And a lot, for me, it's like, a guy at one point sent me an email like that several years ago, and it took me 5 minutes to look quickly at his blog and be like, he's got a great writing voice, he'd gone to some great schools, he clearly knew what he was doing, he just needed to get in the door and he'd be fine. So I just sent an email to like 5 editors I knew and said, hey, this guy's, on the market looking for a job. Like, look at his emails when he writes to you, and then he did, and he got a job at one of the big magazines he wanted to work at, and it wasn't my doing. I mean, he had all the goods
And
himself.
he was
It
out of
just,
the blue to you?
yeah, he just
Okay.
wrote me out of the blue. But a lot of it was, I've been reading your blog, and he knew my stuff, and it's not, and that's where you want to be really careful with this stuff, is people will help you, editors, writers, we will help you, but we know when you don't know us. It's very obvious when someone sends you a story pitch when they don't know your magazine, or if somebody's writing you asking for help and they haven't read your stuff. I had this great, bizarre, this is like a classic example of people trying to network when they're not actually sort of shouldn't be. I was scheduled to be at a conference AWP, whenever that was last year, and I was supposed to speak on a panel about science writing, and I had a death in the family. I didn't make it at the very last minute. And I got many emails from people saying it was great to meet me at the conference. And they really loved
Good.